There is a quiet power within you that has been waiting patiently for your permission to rise. It does not shout. It does not compete. It does not beg for validation. It simply waits, like the sun behind the clouds, knowing that its nature is to shine. And the moment you begin to speak blessings upon yourself, you part those clouds. You allow what has always been there to illuminate your life. From the time you were very young, you were taught to measure yourself, to compare, to strive, to look outward for approval. The ego stepped in gently at first, whispering, "You are what others think of you. You are what you achieve. You are what you own. You are what you can prove." And without realizing it, you began speaking subtle curses upon your own being. I'm not enough. I'm behind. I should be further along. Why can't I be more like them? These phrases may seem harmless, but they are seeds. And whatever you plant in the soil of your consciousness must grow. Imagine an orange in your hand. If you squeeze that orange, what comes out? Orange juice. Not apple juice, not vinegar, only what was already inside. When life squeezes you, what comes out is what you have been filling yourself with. If you have been filling your inner world with self-criticism, fear, resentment, and doubt, then that is what will spill into your relationships, your health, your work. But if you begin to fill yourself with blessings, gentle, powerful, intentional words of truth, then when the pressures of life come, what flows out will be compassion, confidence, clarity, and love. Speaking blessings upon yourself is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is remembering who you truly are. You are not a temporary body struggling for significance in a chaotic world. You are a divine expression of infinite intelligence, temporarily housed in form. You are the ocean expressing itself as a wave. The wave may rise and fall, but the ocean remains vast and undisturbed. When you identify only with the wave, its height, its speed, its comparison to other waves, you live in fear. When you remember you are the ocean, you live in peace. The ego fears blessings. It says, if you praise yourself, you will become complacent. If you believe in yourself, you will be disappointed. If you expect abundance, you will be proven wrong. The ego survives on scarcity. It thrives on the idea that there is not enough love, not enough success, not enough security. But the soul knows something different. The soul knows that you are connected to a source that is inexhaustible. Infinite love cannot be depleted. Infinite creativity cannot run dry. Infinite guidance does not take vacations. When you wake up in the morning and before your feet touch the floor, you whisper to yourself, I am blessed. I am guided. I am worthy. I am aligned with the highest good. You are not engaging in fantasy. You are choosing which frequency to tune into. Just as a radio can receive countless stations, your consciousness can receive countless narratives. The world may broadcast fear, urgency, and comparison, but you do not have to tune in. You can select a different station. You can speak your own broadcast. Words are not empty sounds. They are vibrations. They carry intention, and intention is creative power. The universe responds not to what you wish for silently while doubting, but to what you declare with conviction. When you speak blessings upon yourself, you are not convincing an external deity to favor you. You are activating the divine presence within you. You are saying, I recognize the sacred in myself. I choose to align with it. Consider the sky. Clouds may pass through it dark, heavy, turbulent clouds, but the sky itself is never damaged. It remains vast, open, untouched. Your thoughts and emotions are like those clouds. Self-doubt may drift in. Old shame may reappear. Fear of failure may thunder overhead. But the awareness observing those clouds, the consciousness that notices them, is clear and spacious. When you speak blessings upon yourself, you are identifying with the sky rather than the storm. You may say, but I have made mistakes, I have failed, I have hurt others. How can I bless myself? The ego equates blessing with perfection. The soul understands blessing as recognition. You are blessing the divine essence within you, not the temporary behaviors shaped by fear. When a child falls while learning to walk, do you curse the child or do you encourage them? You say, you're doing beautifully, try again. Why then do you withhold that same compassion from yourself? Every time you replay a past regret and label yourself as foolish or inadequate, you are squeezing that orange of self-judgment and drinking from it again. You are reinforcing an identity rooted in limitation. But the past is a memory, not a prison. It has no power except the power you grant it through your interpretation. You can reinterpret. You can say, that experience shaped me, it taught me, it refined me. And in doing so, you transform pain into wisdom. To speak blessings upon yourself is to forgive yourself. It is to say, I release the need to be who I was. I allow myself to become who I am meant to be. Forgiveness is not an endorsement of past behavior. It is a refusal to chain your present to your past. It is stepping out of the courtroom of the ego where you are both prosecutor and defendant and walking into the sanctuary of the soul where only love presides. Notice how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake. Notice the tone. Is it harsh? Is it impatient? Would you speak that way to someone you deeply love? If not, then why do you accept it as normal within your own mind? The relationship you have with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship in your life. When you speak blessings inwardly, you cultivate an inner atmosphere of kindness, and from that atmosphere, your outer world begins to shift. There is a principle in metaphysics that what you focus on expands. If you focus on your perceived shortcomings, they will loom larger in your awareness. If you focus on your inherent divinity, that too will expand. You are not ignoring reality when you bless yourself. You are choosing which aspect of reality to energize. You are choosing to water the seeds of possibility rather than the weeds of self-condemnation. Say to yourself, I am enough. Not because you have achieved everything on your list, not because others have validated you, but because your existence itself is evidence of divine intention. The same intelligence that orchestrates galaxies and synchronizes seasons beats your heart without your conscious effort. Do you think such intelligence would create something inherently flawed? The ego says, prove your worth. The soul says, you are worthy because you are. When you speak blessings upon yourself, you begin to notice subtle changes. You walk differently. You listen more openly. You make decisions from clarity rather than desperation. You stop chasing approval because you are anchored in inner acceptance. And paradoxically, as you release the need to be seen as worthy, others begin to reflect your worth back to you. Not because you demanded it, but because you embody it. There is immense freedom in understanding that you are not your achievements and you are not your failures. You are the awareness experiencing them. When you identify with awareness, you cannot be diminished. A wave may crash against rocks, but the ocean remains. A role may end, a job may change, a relationship may dissolve, but the consciousness that witnesses these transitions remains steady. The ego will resist this shift. It will say, if you relax into self-acceptance, you will lose your drive. But consider this, is fear truly the highest motivator, or is inspiration more powerful? When you act from fear of inadequacy, your energy is contracted. When you act from a sense of blessing, your energy is expansive. Which state do you think generates more creativity, more resilience, more joy? Speaking blessings upon yourself is not a one-time event. It is a practice. It is a discipline of attention. Each day presents opportunities to revert to old patterns of self-criticism. Each day also presents opportunities to choose differently. When you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this, pause, breathe. Replace it with, I am guided, I am capable, I am supported. You are not lying to yourself. You are reminding yourself. And as you practice, something profound happens. You begin to trust yourself. Not the ego self that needs to be right, but the deeper self that is aligned with intuition. You begin to sense when a decision resonates with your highest good. You become less reactive and more responsive. You move from forcing outcomes to allowing alignment. Imagine your life as a garden. Every thought is a seed. Every word is water. If you continually water seeds of doubt, you cannot be surprised when doubt blooms. But if you water seeds of gratitude, faith, and self-respect, those qualities will flourish. And gardens do not transform overnight. They require consistent tending. But the beauty that eventually emerges is a reflection of your devotion. You are here not to shrink, but to expand. Not to condemn yourself, but to discover yourself. Not to chase love, but to realize you are love in expression. When you speak blessings upon yourself, you are not inflating the ego, you are dissolving it. Because the ego thrives on comparison, and blessing is rooted in unity. The ego says, I am better than, or I am worse than. The soul says, I am, just I am. Before any label, before any achievement, before any story, I am is the name of the divine presence within you. When you attach words of blessing to I am, you are declaring alignment with that presence. I am peaceful, I am strong, I am guided. These are not mere affirmations, they are declarations of identity. And identity shapes destiny. If you see yourself as broken, you will seek experiences that confirm that identity. If you see yourself as blessed, you will interpret challenges as opportunities for growth rather than proof of inadequacy. The external circumstances may not change immediately, but your relationship to them will. And that shift in perception is the birthplace of freedom. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty, it is the absence of self-rejection in the midst of difficulty. It is knowing that no matter what unfolds, you remain connected to an inner wellspring of strength. It is trusting that even detours are part of a larger design. When you speak blessings upon yourself, you anchor that trust more deeply into your being. So today, make a gentle commitment, not to be perfect, not to eliminate all negative thoughts, but to become aware of the narrative you are living inside. And when that narrative turns harsh or fearful, choose to rewrite it. Choose to speak life rather than limitation. Choose to align with the vast ocean rather than the fleeting wave. You are not here by accident. You are not here to merely survive. You are here to awaken. And awakening begins with how you speak to yourself in the quiet moments when no one else is listening. Those words shape your inner climate. And your inner climate determines the harvest of your life. Bless yourself in the morning. Bless yourself in your struggles. Bless yourself in your growth. Bless yourself in your becoming. Because when you do, you are not changing who you are remembering. And in that remembrance, your life begins to reflect the truth that was always waiting to be claimed. That you are and have always been a radiant expression of the divine, worthy of love, worthy of joy, worthy of a life lived in freedom. Speak blessings upon yourself and watch as your world rearranges itself around the frequency of your own awakened heart. And as you continue this sacred practice, you begin to notice that the voice within you softens. It no longer demands that you rush to become someone else. It no longer insists that fulfillment lives somewhere in the distant future. Instead, it gently invites you into this moment, the only place where life is ever truly lived. There is something profoundly liberating about realizing that you do not have to earn your right to exist. You do not have to negotiate with the universe for your place within it. The trees do not apologize for taking up space in the forest. The stars do not compete for brilliance in the night sky. Each shines according to its nature. And you too are here by divine appointment, not by accident. When you bless yourself, you are stepping into harmony with that appointment. You are saying yes to your own existence. You are releasing the unconscious habit of resisting yourself. So much of human suffering comes not from circumstances, but from this internal resistance, this subtle refusal to accept what is. I should be different. This shouldn't be happening. I should be further along. These quiet arguments with reality create tension in the body, contraction in the heart, confusion in the mind. But what if you allowed what is to simply be? What if you met your present circumstances, not with judgment, but with curiosity? There is wisdom in every experience. Even discomfort carries a message. Even uncertainty is a doorway. When you stop labeling experiences as enemies and begin seeing them as teachers, something extraordinary happens. You reclaim your power. Power does not come from controlling every outcome. It comes from mastering your inner response. It comes from choosing the lens through which you view your life. Two people can walk through the same storm. One sees devastation, the other sees cleansing. The rain itself is neutral. It is the interpretation that shapes the experience. This is why your inner dialogue matters so deeply. It is the architect of your perception, and perception becomes reality in your lived experience. When you speak words of encouragement to yourself, you are not denying challenges, you are reframing them within a larger context of growth and evolution. You are stepping back far enough to see that the puzzle pieces are forming a picture you may not yet fully understand. There is a deep intelligence orchestrating your journey. You may not always recognize its patterns while you are in the midst of them, but later you often look back and realize that what once seemed like a setback was actually redirection. What felt like loss was making space. What appeared as failure was refinement. Life is not random chaos. It is unfolding. The ego insists on certainty. It craves guarantees. It wants a clear map before it takes a step. But the soul moves differently. It trusts the path will reveal itself as you walk it. It knows that clarity often comes through action, not before it. When you bless yourself with trust, you loosen the grip of anxiety. You stop demanding that the future explain itself before it arrives. And what is trust, if not faith in your own connection to something greater? You are not navigating this existence alone. There is an unseen support system available to you at all times. Call it Source. Call it divine intelligence. Call it universal consciousness. The name is less important than the knowing. When you align your thoughts with possibility rather than fear, you open yourself to guidance that cannot be accessed through worry. Worry is a form of prayer for what you do not want. It is repetitive focus on imagined negative outcomes, but you have the capacity to shift that focus. You can choose to envision strength instead of catastrophe. You can choose to imagine solutions instead of problems. And in doing so, you become a conscious participant in shaping your experience. Notice how your body responds when you criticize yourself. It tightens, it contracts, your breath becomes shallow. Now notice what happens when you offer yourself compassion. Your shoulders relax, your breathing deepens, there is space again. Your physical state mirrors your mental state. By blessing yourself, you create internal coherence. Mind and body begin to move in harmony rather than conflict. Harmony is your natural state. You were born aligned with it. Watch a child before conditioning sets in. There is spontaneity, authenticity, joy in simple things. That essence has not disappeared from you. It has only been layered over by expectations and comparisons. When you speak kindly to yourself, you peel back those layers. You return to simplicity. And simplicity is powerful. It frees you from the endless pursuit of more validation, more possessions, more status. The ego equates more with better, but the soul understands that peace does not come from accumulation. It comes from alignment. When your inner world is in order, the outer world loses its ability to dominate your emotional state. This does not mean you withdraw from ambition or goals. It means your goals arise from inspiration rather than insecurity. You create not to prove, but to express. You strive not to outrun inadequacy, but to explore your potential. The energy behind your actions shifts, and that shift changes the quality of everything you produce. You begin to attract different experiences when your self-concept evolves. Not because the universe is playing favorites, but because your vibration has changed. Like energy resonates with like energy. When you carry yourself with quiet self-respect, you draw people who respect you. When you radiate calm confidence, opportunities align that match that frequency. This is not mystical fantasy, it is resonance. Every thought has a tone, every belief carries a signal, and the field of life responds to that signal. If you constantly broadcast doubt, you will notice evidence that confirms it. If you broadcast assurance, you will perceive possibilities that were previously invisible to you. Your task is not to force the world to treat you differently. Your task is to treat yourself differently. The external rearranges itself in response to the internal. That is the true order of creation. Change does not begin out there. It begins in the quiet chambers of your awareness. You may encounter moments when old patterns attempt to resurface. A familiar wave of self-doubt, a reflex of comparison. When that happens, do not scold yourself for regressing. Simply observe. Awareness itself is transformative. When you notice a pattern without attaching shame to it, you weaken its hold. You create space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom. And freedom is not granted by circumstances. It is cultivated within consciousness. The moment you realize you are not obligated to believe every thought that passes through your mind, you reclaim authority over your experience. Thoughts are visitors. You are the host. You decide which ones may stay. So choose thoughts that nourish you. Choose narratives that empower you. Choose interpretations that expand rather than contract your spirit. This is not naivete, it is mastery. It is recognizing that while you may not control every event, you always retain sovereignty over your inner landscape. Imagine standing before a mirror and instead of searching for flaws, you look into your own eyes and acknowledge the journey you have traveled. the resilience, the lessons, the courage it has taken to be here now. You begin to see yourself not as a collection of imperfections, but as a living testament to growth. That recognition transforms how you move through the world. You stop apologizing for your presence. You speak your truth more clearly. You set boundaries not from anger, but from self-honoring. You release relationships that require you to shrink. You embrace those that celebrate your authenticity. And gradually, almost imperceptibly, you begin to experience a deeper joy. Not the fleeting excitement of external achievements, but a steady undercurrent of contentment, a knowing that you are aligned, a sense that even when life is complex, you remain centered. This is the ripple effect of blessing yourself. It extends beyond your own experience. When you embody self-compassion, you model it for others. When you speak gently to yourself, you become more patient with those around you. The energy you cultivate within radiates outward. You become a quiet invitation for others to do the same. There is a collective healing that begins with individual transformation. Every person who chooses self-respect over self-rejection contributes to a more conscious world. You are not separate from humanity, you are an expression of it. Your inner peace influences the greater whole in ways you may never fully measure. So continue speaking life into your own heart. Continue affirming your connection to the infinite. Continue choosing trust over fear, curiosity over judgment, presence over regret. This is not about perfection, it is about practice. Each day is another opportunity to align more deeply with who you truly are. And as you walk this path, remember that you are both the sculptor and the sculpture. Every thought chisels, every word shapes. Speak blessings upon yourself, and you shape a life rooted not in scarcity, but in sacred abundance. And as you continue to walk this inward path, something within you begins to glow with a quiet certainty. Not the loud certainty of the ego that needs to announce itself, but the steady knowing that arises from alignment. You begin to feel at home within your own being. You no longer search for permission to shine. You simply shine because it is your nature to do so. There comes a moment in every awakening when you realize that the life you have been waiting for is not somewhere ahead of you, it is responding to you now. The universe is not withholding your blessings. It is mirroring your vibration. And when you bless yourself, when you honor your own sacred worth, you send out a signal that says, I am ready to live as who I truly am. You stop chasing, you stop pleading, you stop negotiating with your own value. Instead, you stand in quiet reverence for the miracle of your existence. You begin to see that every breath is evidence of grace. Every heartbeat is confirmation that something infinitely intelligent sustains you moment by moment. You are not self-created. You are life expressing itself as you. And how could life itself be unworthy? The mind may attempt to resurrect old stories, narratives of comparison, of inadequacy, of regret, but now you see them differently. They are echoes, not truths. They are habits, not identities. You watch them pass like distant clouds moving across a vast horizon, and you remain the horizon itself, steady, expansive, untouched. This is the shift. This is the remembrance. You are not the wounded character in a fragile story. You are the awareness in which the story unfolds. And awareness is never broken. It is never diminished. It is the silent witness of all experience, and it is whole by its very nature. When you speak blessings upon yourself, you are aligning with that wholeness. You are dissolving the illusion that you must fix yourself before you can love yourself. You are stepping out of the endless self-improvement project and into self-acceptance. And from that acceptance, true growth flows naturally, effortlessly, without force. There is such freedom in no longer arguing with your own humanity. You allow yourself to feel without labeling your feelings as weakness. You allow yourself to rest without calling it laziness. You allow yourself to evolve without demanding immediate perfection. You begin to treat your life not as a race to be won, but as a sacred unfolding to be witnessed. And in this witnessing, you notice synchronicities, gentle alignments, conversations that arrive at just the right moment, opportunities that seem to meet you halfway. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. When your inner dialogue becomes harmonious, your outer world begins to echo that harmony. You are no longer living in reaction. You are living in intention. Intention is not a rigid plan. It is a direction of energy. It is the quiet declaration that you choose love over fear, expansion over contraction, faith over doubt, And every time you return to that declaration, you strengthen it. Every time you bless yourself in the face of uncertainty, you deepen your trust in the unseen currents guiding you. You begin to understand that you were never meant to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You were meant to participate in it with grace, to contribute your unique light without comparing its brightness to another's. The garden does not require every flower to be identical. Its beauty lies in diversity. And your uniqueness is not an accident. It is essential. There will still be challenges. Seasons will change. Circumstances will shift. But you no longer interpret difficulty as a verdict on your worth. You see it as movement within a greater rhythm. You trust that even endings carry seeds of new beginnings. You trust that even silence holds guidance. And when you forget, because you will forget at times, you return. You return to your breath. You return to the simple truth. I am, before the roles, before the expectations, before the memories. I am is enough. I am is sacred. I am is connected to the same force that spins galaxies and orchestrates the tides. Take a deep breath with me right now. Not the hurried breath of someone chasing the next moment, not the anxious inhale of a mind trying to control outcomes, but the slow, deliberate breath of a soul, remembering something ancient. Feel it. Life is breathing you. You are not managing the breath. The breath is happening. And in that simple realization is a profound truth. There is an intelligence beating your heart, growing your fingernails, moving the tides of the oceans, spinning galaxies in silent perfection. That same intelligence is guiding your life. Relax. Life already knows the way. From the moment you arrived in this physical body, something far greater than your personality has been at work. Before you had a name, before you developed preferences, before you learned the language of comparison and fear, you were pure presence. You were the sky before the clouds appeared. You were the ocean before the waves began to identify themselves as separate. And yet somewhere along the way, the ego whispered a lie. It said, you must control everything. You must compete. You must defend. You must prove. And you began to believe that you were the wave, struggling against other waves, terrified of crashing onto the shore. But what if you are not the wave? What if you are the ocean itself? The wave rises and falls. It appears for a moment, dazzling in the sunlight, and then dissolves back into the vastness. The ego trembles at this idea because it seeks permanence in form. It wants the wave to last forever. It wants recognition, applause, certainty. Yet the ocean is never diminished when a wave disappears. It is simply expressing itself in infinite shapes. In the same way, your life is an expression of an infinite intelligence. Your job is not to force the wave higher. Your job is to remember you are the water. So many of us live in quiet panic. We grip our goals. We strategize every detail. We replay past conversations. We forecast imaginary disasters. We believe that if we do not strain and struggle, everything will collapse. But look at the trees outside your window. They are not straining to grow. They are not competing with the sky. They are rooted. They trust the soil, the rain, the unseen process unfolding beneath the surface. The oak does not envy the pine. The rose does not rush the spring. Nature does not hurry, and yet everything is accomplished. Why do we imagine we are separate from that same divine orchestration? The ego says, if I relax, I will fall behind. The soul whispers, if you relax, you will align. And alignment is far more powerful than effort. When you are aligned with your source, you move with the current of life instead of against it. You stop trying to swim upstream, exhausted and resentful, and you allow yourself to be carried by something wiser than your intellect. This does not mean passivity. It means participation without fear. It means action inspired by trust rather than driven by anxiety. There is a difference between forcing a door open and walking through one that gently swings toward you. Life is constantly presenting doors. Some open easily, others remain closed no matter how hard you push. The ego interprets a closed door as rejection. The soul sees redirection. How many times have you looked back at an event you once called a disaster and realized it was a blessing in disguise? The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the plan that collapsed, each one carved a new path you could not see at the time. The mind judged it as failure, but the larger intelligence was rearranging the pieces of your life into a design more aligned with your growth. Life already knew the way, even when you didn't. The problem is not that life is chaotic. It is that we are addicted to certainty. We want guarantees. We want to know how everything will unfold before we take a single step. But faith is not the absence of planning. It is the absence of fear. Faith is knowing that whatever happens, you are supported by something eternal. It is understanding that you are not a fragile accident drifting through randomness. You are a divine creation, participating in a divine plan. Imagine holding an orange in your hand. When you squeeze it, what comes out? Orange juice. Not apple juice, not grape juice. Why? Because that is what was inside. When life squeezes you through pressure, through uncertainty, through loss, what comes out? Anger, bitterness, blame? That is not life's fault. That is what was inside. And the squeezing is not punishment. It is revelation. It shows you where healing is needed. It shows you the places where the ego still believes it is separate and in danger. When you remember that you are the ocean, not the wave, the squeezing changes. Pressure becomes purification. Challenge becomes invitation. You begin to ask, what is life teaching me? How is this serving my awakening? Instead of resisting what is, you lean into it with curiosity. You trust that even discomfort is part of the choreography. There is a rhythm to existence. Day becomes night. Winter becomes spring. Inhale becomes exhale. Birth becomes death. None of it is a mistake. Yet the ego clings to one side of every duality. It wants perpetual summer, constant success, endless applause. It forgets that without winter, there is no renewal. Without silence, there is no music. Without stillness, there is no clarity. You are not here to control the rhythm. You are here to dance with it. When you stop arguing with reality, something miraculous happens. The energy you once used to resist becomes available for creation. The mind quiets. The heart opens. You begin to feel guided rather than pressured. Synchronicities appear. Conversations align. Opportunities unfold with a sense of effortlessness that once seemed impossible. This is not magic, it is alignment. It is what happens when the wave stops fighting the ocean. The ego fears surrender because it confuses surrender with defeat. But surrender is not giving up, it is giving over. It is releasing the illusion that you must micromanage the universe. It is trusting that the same intelligence that paints sunsets and orchestrates the migration of birds is fully capable of guiding your career, your relationships, your dreams. Do you truly believe you are separate from that intelligence? Or have you simply forgotten? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the vast sky. Clouds drift across it, some light and wispy, others dark and stormy, but the sky itself remains untouched. It does not cling to the clouds or resist them. It allows them to pass. Your thoughts are like those clouds. Worry drifts in, doubt forms, fear gathers like a storm. And you, identifying with the cloud, panic, but you are not the cloud. You are the sky, vast, unchanged, limitless. When you rest in that awareness, you realize that no external event can define you. Success does not inflate you. Failure does not diminish you. Praise does not complete you. Criticism does not destroy you. You are already complete because your essence is divine. And when you know this, you stop scrambling for validation. You stop chasing outcomes as if they are proof of your worth. Relax. Life already knows the way. Every time you attempt to force an outcome from a place of fear, you step out of alignment. You tighten, you constrict. You shrink into the illusion of separateness. But when you act from inspiration, from that quiet inner knowing, you expand. There is a lightness, a sense that you are being moved rather than pushing. This is the difference between ego-driven ambition and soul-guided intention. Intention is not about controlling details. It is about aligning with qualities. If you set the intention to live in peace, you will be guided toward experiences that teach peace. If you set the intention to embody love, you will encounter situations that invite you to choose love over fear. The path may not look like you expected, but it will always serve your evolution. Consider the seed planted deep within the earth. In darkness, it breaks open. From the perspective of the seed, this breaking might feel like death, yet it is the beginning of growth. You, too, have experienced moments when everything seemed to be falling apart. Perhaps it was not falling apart. Perhaps it was breaking open. Perhaps life was creating space for something greater to emerge. The ego resists breaking open because it thrives on familiarity. It would rather remain in a small, known prison than step into vast uncertainty. But the soul longs for expansion. It longs to express its infinite nature through you. And when you cling to the old, you block the new. When you insist on controlling the script, you miss the improvisation of grace. There is a deep intelligence within you that always knows the next step. Not 10 steps ahead, not the entire map, just the next step. And that is all you ever need. The mind demands the whole staircase before it takes a step. The heart needs only the next stone illuminated. When you listen to that quiet inner voice, you are guided with precision. It may tell you to rest when the world says hustle. It may tell you to speak when fear says stay silent. It may tell you to let go when attachment screams, hold on. Trust it. Trust that the discomfort you feel is not evidence of failure, but evidence of growth. Trust that the delays are not punishments, but preparations. Trust that even the endings are sacred. For every ending clears space for a beginning aligned with who you are becoming. You are not here to survive life. You are here to participate in its unfolding with awareness. When you shift from control to trust, from fear to faith, from ego to essence, something extraordinary happens. You experience freedom. Not freedom from circumstances, but freedom within them. You realize that peace is not found in arranging the world to your liking. Peace is found in aligning with the deeper current that flows beneath appearances. Imagine floating on your back in a calm sea. If you thrash and panic, you exhaust yourself. If you relax, the water holds you effortlessly. Life is like that. When you trust, you are held. When you fight, you sink into anxiety. The choice is not about controlling the ocean. It is about choosing your posture within it. I am not suggesting that challenges will disappear. Storms will come. Waves will rise. But when you know you are the ocean, the storm does not define you. It passes through you. And afterward, you remain vast, undisturbed at your core. Say to yourself quietly, I am guided. I am supported. I am exactly where I need to be. Feel the resonance of those words. They are not empty affirmations. They are reminders of truth. When you declare, I am, you speak from the same creative power that brought the universe into being. You align with the source of all existence, and from that place, fear dissolves. The more you relax into trust, the more you notice that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are both the instrument and the musician. The melody of your life is being composed in real time, and your role is to allow it to flow without insisting it sound a certain way. When you stop criticizing the notes, you begin to appreciate the symphony. There is no rush. The oak tree does not become mighty overnight. The river does not reach the ocean in a single leap. Everything unfolds in divine timing. Impatience is a signal that the ego is demanding immediate gratification. Patience is the soul's understanding that growth is invisible before it becomes visible. Relax. Life already knows the way. You do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to eliminate every uncertainty. You do not need to fix every imperfection. You need only to remain connected to the awareness that you are more than your thoughts, more than your fears, more than your temporary circumstances. You are an eternal being having a human experience, and that experience is designed for expansion. When you wake each morning, instead of asking, what do I have to control today? Ask, how can I align today? Instead of saying, what if things go wrong? Say, what if everything is unfolding perfectly for my highest good? Feel the shift in energy. Feel the spaciousness that enters your body. That is the difference between ego and essence. In the end, you will see that every twist in your path was purposeful. Every detour led to a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Every challenge refined your character. And the moments you thought you were lost were the moments you were being led. So release the tight grip. Soften your shoulders. Let your breath deepen. The universe is not confused about your destiny. The same intelligence that moves the stars is moving you. You are not behind. You are not off track. You are not forgotten. You are carried. And when you remember this, when you truly embody it, a profound calm settles into your being. You move through the world with quiet confidence. You act when inspired. You rest when called. You speak from love. You release resentment. You forgive quickly because you understand that holding on to anger is like gripping a hot coal. It only burns you. You trust that every soul you encounter is part of the grand design of your awakening. Relax. Life already knows the way. Let this truth sink into the deepest layers of your consciousness. Let it replace the old narrative of struggle and scarcity. Let it dissolve the illusion that you must fight for your place in the universe. You already belong. You always have. You always will. And as you walk forward from this moment, carry this awareness like a quiet flame within your heart. When doubt arises, return to it. When fear whispers, breathe into it. When uncertainty appears, smile gently and remember, the path is unfolding exactly as it must. You are the ocean. You are the sky. You are the intelligence behind the breath. Trust it, align with it, relax into it. Life already knows the way. And as you continue along this sacred journey, there will be moments when the path ahead appears obscured, when the horizon seems wrapped in fog, and your carefully constructed plans dissolve like mist in the morning sun. In those moments, the invitation is not to panic, not to grasp for certainty, but to deepen your listening. For beneath the noise of the world, beneath the chatter of the conditioned mind, there is a current of knowing that has never once been confused about your direction. You were born with an internal compass that does not rely on external approval. It does not spin wildly in the presence of criticism, nor does it inflate under praise. It is calibrated to truth, yet many have been taught to distrust it. We have been conditioned to look outward for permission, to measure our worth by comparison, to seek validation in fleeting applause. And so the compass grows quiet, not because it has failed, but because it is waiting for you to remember its voice. When you begin to honor that inner guidance, something subtle shifts. Decisions are no longer made from fear of missing out or fear of falling behind. They arise from resonance. You feel into a choice rather than calculate it to exhaustion. There is a softness in the body when something aligns, a constriction when it does not. Your body is not merely flesh and bone, it is an instrument of intuition. It speaks in sensation long before the mind formulates language. Consider how a river finds its way around obstacles. It does not argue with the rock. It does not attempt to overpower the mountain. It flows, it curves, it adapts without losing its essence. That is strength without aggression. That is power without force. You, too, possess this capacity. When resistance appears in your life, you can meet it with rigidity or you can meet it with fluidity. The river never doubts that it will reach the sea. It understands that every bend is part of the journey. So often we mistake delay for denial. We assume that if something does not manifest immediately, it must not be meant for us. But what if timing is an act of compassion? What if certain doors remain closed because you are still gathering the wisdom required to walk through them? There are seasons for planting and seasons for harvesting. To demand fruit from a seed that has just been placed in the soil is to misunderstand the rhythm of growth. Within you exists the quiet sanctuary, untouched by circumstance. It is not shaken by market fluctuations, not diminished by relational conflict, not defined by titles or possessions. It is the space of pure awareness. When you rest there, even briefly, you recognize that your essence has never been wounded. Experiences may have left impressions on the personality, but the core of your being remains whole. Healing, then, is not about fixing what is broken. It is about remembering what has always been intact. The ego thrives on narrative. It collects grievances like trophies, rehearses stories of injustice, clings to identities shaped by past pain. Yet these stories, repeated often enough, begin to feel like truth. And still, you have the power to step outside the script. You can observe the story without becoming it. You can witness the memory without reliving the emotion. In that witnessing, freedom emerges. Forgiveness becomes less about excusing behavior and more about liberating yourself from energetic entanglement. To forgive is to declare that your peace is more valuable than your resentment. It is to release the illusion that holding on to anger will somehow restore balance. The past exists only as a thought in the present moment. And in this moment, you are free to choose a different interpretation, a different response, a different identity. Imagine standing before a mirror that reflects not your physical form, but your beliefs. What would you see? Would you see limitation or possibility, scarcity or abundance? If you have been gazing into a mirror of doubt, you may have forgotten that you are the one holding it. You can tilt it toward faith. You can polish it with gratitude. The reflection changes when the perception shifts. Gratitude is not a denial of difficulty. It is an acknowledgement of underlying grace. Even in the midst of challenge, there are threads of support woven through your experience. A lesson learned, a strength discovered, a compassion awakened. When you train your awareness to notice these threads, life begins to feel less like a battleground and more like a classroom designed for your expansion. There is immense power in the simple declaration, I am willing. Willing to grow, willing to release, willing to trust, willing to see differently. Willingness opens doors that force cannot. It softens the rigid edges of expectation and creates space for miracles to enter. And miracles, contrary to popular belief, are not violations of natural law. They are expressions of a higher law, operating beyond the limited perception of the ego. When you align with that higher law, synchronicity becomes commonplace. You think of someone and they call. You contemplate a new direction and an unexpected opportunity appears. These are not random coincidences. They are reminders that you are participating in an interconnected field of intelligence. Your thoughts carry energy. Your intentions ripple outward. You are not isolated. You are intricately woven into the fabric of existence. This understanding dissolves loneliness at its root. Even in solitude, you are accompanied by the presence that animates all life. The same force that causes flowers to turn toward the sun resides within your own awareness. You are never outside of it. You cannot fall from its embrace. The feeling of separation is a learned perception, not an ultimate truth. As you deepen into this realization, comparison begins to lose its grip. You no longer measure your journey against another's timeline. You recognize that each soul unfolds uniquely, like distinct notes in a vast symphony. To envy another's melody is to forget the beauty of your own. When you honor your path, you contribute authentically to the whole. There will still be moments of uncertainty. This is part of the human experience. But uncertainty need not equate to fear. It can become a sacred space of potential. When the future is unwritten, possibility is infinite. Instead of filling that space with worst-case scenarios, you can fill it with trust. You can say, I do not see the entire design, but I trust the designer within. And so you move forward, not with reckless abandon, but with quiet confidence. You take inspired steps without demanding immediate proof. You allow relationships to evolve naturally. You release the need to micromanage outcomes. You recognize that control is often a disguised form of insecurity, while trust is an expression of inner strength. Each morning becomes an opportunity to recommit to this alignment. Before the world rushes in with its demands, you center yourself in stillness. You remember that you are a spiritual being engaging in human activity, not a human being occasionally having a spiritual thought. From that remembrance, your actions carry a different quality. They are infused with intention rather than urgency. And as the days unfold, you begin to notice a gentle transformation. Situations that once triggered anxiety now invite curiosity. Interactions that once sparked defensiveness now offer compassion. You respond rather than react. You listen rather than assume. This is the quiet evolution of consciousness. It does not announce itself with fanfare. It reveals itself in subtle shifts of perception. The world may continue its noise, its speed, its endless striving. But within you, there is a sanctuary of calm that cannot be shaken. You carry it into boardrooms and kitchens, into conversations and quiet evenings. It becomes the foundation from which you live rather than a place you visit only in crisis. And in this way, your life becomes less about achieving a distant destination and more about embodying a present truth. You realize that fulfillment is not postponed until some future milestone. It is available now, in this breath, in this awareness, in this gentle surrender to the intelligence that has always been guiding you. So walk forward with a softened heart and an open mind. Let go of the need to choreograph every detail. Allow yourself to be surprised by grace. When confusion arises, pause instead of pushing. When fear whispers, return to your inner stillness. When doubt appears, remember the countless times you were carried through what once seemed impossible. There is a wisdom within you that predates your worries. There is a strength within you that does not depend on circumstance. There is a love within you that requires no external source. Anchor yourself there. And as you do, you will find that life does not demand your constant vigilance. It invites your conscious participation. It does not require your struggle. It welcomes your trust. It does not need you to dominate the current. It asks you to flow with it. Breathe deeply again. Feel the quiet assurance settling into your bones. You are not lost. You are not unsupported. You are not navigating a meaningless maze. You are unfolding precisely as you are meant to unfold. And in that unfolding, there is a quiet perfection. And as you stand here in this awareness, something within you grows still, not the stillness of emptiness, but the stillness of deep knowing, the kind of knowing that does not need evidence, the kind of knowing that feels like home. You begin to sense that nothing in your life has been accidental, not the detours, not the heartbreaks, not the long nights of questioning. Each experience has been a brushstroke on the canvas of your awakening. What once felt like chaos now reveals itself as choreography. What once felt like loss now reveals itself as refinement. You are not becoming whole. You are remembering that you have always been whole. The striving softens. The urgency dissolves. You no longer chase the horizon because you realize the horizon moves with you. The fulfillment you sought in distant achievements begins to glow quietly from within. It was never waiting at the finish line. It was waiting in your recognition. There is a profound gentleness available to you now. A way of walking through the world without armor, a way of speaking without defense, a way of loving without bargaining. When you trust the intelligence that breathes you, you no longer feel compelled to prove yourself to anyone. You understand that a rose does not struggle to justify its fragrance. It simply blooms. And so you bloom. You bloom in uncertainty. You bloom in transition. You bloom even in the presence of unanswered questions, because your blooming is not dependent on perfect conditions. It is an expression of your essence. You are life expressing itself as you, and life does not hesitate. Feel the quiet miracle of your own existence, the heart beating without your command, the lungs rising and falling in sacred rhythm, the awareness reading these words, all of it guided by something vast and benevolent. You are not separate from that vastness. You are a unique expression of it. Let this realization settle deeply. You are supported in ways you cannot always see. You are guided in ways you may not always understand, and you are loved by the very force that holds galaxies in place. Release the final remnants of resistance. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath lengthen. Let the mind rest from its constant calculations. There is nothing you must solve in this moment. There is nowhere else you must be. This moment is complete, and so are you within it. Trust the unfolding. Trust the quiet nudges of your heart. Trust the invisible current moving beneath appearances. You are not walking alone. You have never walked alone. The path rises to meet your feet with each step, even when you cannot see beyond the next few inches of light. And as you move forward from here, carry this gentle certainty. You do not have to force the river. You do not have to command the sunrise. You do not have to control the turning of the seasons. Relax. The wisdom that created the stars is guiding your life with the same precision, and it has always known the way.
The very fact that you are here tonight suggests that something within you knows there is more. Something in you recognizes that the state of consciousness in which you dwell is not the final chapter of your story. And you are absolutely right, for no state is final unless you decree it to be so. The magnificent truth I wish to share with you tonight is that freedom, complete and total freedom, is your natural inheritance. It is the fundamental reality of your being, and the path to claiming this freedom is not outside of you, but within the divine operation of your own wonderful human imagination. Let me share with you a profound truth that changed my life and has transformed the lives of countless others who have tested it and found it to be the one grand law of life. Consciousness is the one and only reality. Everything that you perceive, everything that makes up your world is nothing more than your consciousness pushed out. The world that seems to hold you captive is but a reflection of your own states of consciousness made visible. The prison that appears to constrain you exists nowhere but in your own imagination. When you truly grasp this principle, not merely intellectually, but in the very depths of your being, you will understand that the key to your freedom has been in your possession all along. For if consciousness is the only reality and your world is simply consciousness objectified, then to change your world, You need only change your consciousness. This is the divine art of assumption. By assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you can transform the shadow world of limitation into the substance of freedom. Many people come to me and say, Nebel, I understand these principles. I grasp them intellectually, but still I feel stuck. I cannot seem to break free from my circumstances. And to this I reply, the feeling of being stuck persists because you have not yet made real to yourself the truth that you are pure consciousness, pure awareness, and that this consciousness is the only reality. You have not fully accepted that the world and all its circumstances are mere reflections, mere shadows of your own magnificent inner states. Consider for a moment what it means to be stuck. To be stuck implies that there is something external to you, something outside of your control that is restraining your movement, limiting your options, confining your existence. But I tell you with absolute certainty, there is nothing outside of consciousness. There is nothing external to you, for you are consciousness, and consciousness is all there is. The walls you perceive around you, the limitations you feel so acutely exist only because you have granted them reality in your consciousness. Tonight, I invite you to make a revolutionary discovery. You are not stuck because of external circumstances. You are experiencing the state of being stuck because you are dwelling in that state in consciousness. And just as you can enter a state, you can exit it. Just as you can assume one state of consciousness, you can assume another. This is the miracle of your being the power to choose the state in which you will dwell. Let me share with you a simple yet profound practice that will begin to dissolve the illusion of being stuck. Right now, wherever you are, close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and relax your body completely. Now, in your imagination, see yourself as you would be if you were completely free. Feel the feeling of that freedom. What would it feel like to move without restriction? How would you carry yourself if all limitations were gone? What thoughts would fill your mind if you knew yourself to be absolutely free? Dwell in this state. Saturate yourself with the feeling of freedom. Make it so real, so vivid, that for a moment you forget the old state of being stuck. In that moment of complete absorption in the state of freedom, you have planted a seed in the fertile soil of your consciousness, and what you plant must grow. What you assume must become, but perhaps you're thinking, I've tried this before and nothing changed. To this, I would remind you of a principle I often emphasize. The time track is a device of the human mind. In the realm of consciousness, in the realm of true causation, there is no time. The seed planted in consciousness will blossom in your world when the conditions are right, when the bridge of incidence has been crossed. Your role is not to make the seed grow. Your role is not to force the manifestation. Your role is simply to plant the seed through the art of assumption and to remain faithful to that assumption despite all evidence to the contrary. For remember, the evidence of your senses only tells you what is, it cannot tell you what will be. And what will be is determined not by what is, but by the state you occupy in consciousness. In my own life, I have tested this law countless times, and it has never failed me. I recall a time when I felt completely constrained by financial limitations. All the evidence of my senses told me that I was trapped in poverty, that there was no way out. But instead of accepting this as my final state, I began to assume the feeling of wealth and abundance. I would fall asleep each night, feeling the joy and relief of financial freedom. I would walk through my days carrying myself as one who was abundantly supplied. I did not deny the facts of my current situation, but I refused to give them power over my consciousness. And then seemingly out of nowhere opportunities began to present themselves. Doors began to open that I could not have anticipated. People entered my life bearing gifts that aligned perfectly with my needs. The bridge of incidents formed itself, leading me from the state of financial constraint to the state of abundance I had assumed in consciousness. This is the law that governs all manifestation. Consciousness is the only reality, and what you experience in the outer world is simply consciousness objectified. Therefore, to change your experience, you must change your consciousness. But changing consciousness is not a matter of positive thinking or wishful hoping. It is not about affirming affirmations or repeating mantras. It is about entering so completely into the state of your wish fulfilled that you temporarily forget all other states. It is about making your desired state so vivid, so real in your imagination that it displaces your awareness of the unwanted state. Let me offer you a practical approach to this divine art of assumption. Tonight, when you retire to sleep, lie upon your bed and relax your body completely. Then in your imagination, construct a scene that would imply your freedom from whatever condition has made you feel stuck. Make the scene as vivid and as real as you possibly can. For instance, if you feel stuck in a job that drains your energy and stifles your creativity, imagine a conversation with a friend in which you share your excitement about your new position, one that fulfills you and allows your talents to flourish. Hear your friend's congratulations. Feel the handshake or the embrace. Experience the relief and joy of having transcended the old limitation. Or perhaps you feel stuck in a relationship pattern that brings you pain. Imagine instead a conversation in which you describe to a trusted friend the wonderful harmony and love you now experience. Feel the satisfaction of having moved beyond the old pattern into a new state of mutual respect and affection. Whatever the specific circumstance that has made you feel stuck, create a scene that would naturally follow if you were now free from that limitation. Enter fully into this imaginal scene. Make it so real that for a brief time you forget you are imagining. Feel the feelings that the fulfilled wish would bring. Then, carrying this feeling, drift off to sleep. In doing this, you are planting the seed of your freedom in the fertile soil of consciousness. You are impressing upon the subconscious mind, which knows no limitations and possesses the power to transform your world, the reality of your wish fulfilled. And what is impressed upon the subconscious must be expressed in your world. Some of you may wonder, how long must I persist in this practice before I see results? The answer is you persist until the feeling of your wish fulfilled becomes more real to you than the feeling of being stuck. You persist until you have displaced the old state completely and dwell naturally in the new state. For some, this displacement may occur in a single night of profound imagining. For others, it may require repeated sessions of entering the state of the wish fulfilled. But know this, the law is infallible. What you assume you must become, what you impress upon consciousness, consciousness must express. Remember, time is a construct of the human mind. In the realm of true causation, the realm of consciousness, there is no time. The seed planted today may flower tomorrow or next week or next month. Your task is not to set the timetable for manifestation. Your task is simply to plant the seed with conviction and to tend it with fidelity to your assumption. Now, I understand that for many of you, the feeling of being stuck has persisted for so long that it seems like an unchangeable fact of your existence. Perhaps you've tried various methods to break free, positive thinking, goal setting, seeking advice from experts, and still the walls remain. This persistent experience can make it difficult to believe that freedom is truly possible for you. But I ask you to consider this: the very fact that you can conceive of freedom proves that it exists within your consciousness. And if it exists within your consciousness, it can be made manifest in your world. For consciousness is the only reality, and what exists in consciousness must, by the law of assumption, be expressed in experience. The Bible, when properly understood as a psychological drama rather than a historical document, reveals this truth. When the psalmist says, "He brought me forth also into a large place, he delivered me, because he delighted in me," he is describing the movement from a state of confinement to a state of freedom that occurs when one delights in or fully occupies a new state of consciousness. And in Isaiah we read, "Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thy inhabitation. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes." This is not a command to physically expand one's dwelling. It is an invitation to expand consciousness, to move beyond the limited state in which one has been dwelling, and to occupy a larger, more expansive state. This expansion of consciousness is the true meaning of freedom. It is not merely freedom from external constraints, though that will follow, but freedom from the limited concepts, self and world, that have kept you bound to unwanted conditions. Consider the story of the Exodus, which is often read as a historical account of the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt. But on a deeper level, it is the story of consciousness liberating itself from the bondage of limiting beliefs and assumptions. Egypt represents the state of limitation, the state of being stuck, and the journey to the promised land represents the movement of consciousness from limitation to freedom. But note well, before the Israelites could physically leave Egypt, they had to leave it in consciousness. They had to believe in the possibility of freedom before freedom could become their experience. This is the pattern of all liberation, first in consciousness, then in manifestation. So tonight, I invite you to begin your exodus from the Egypt of limitation. I invite you to cross the Red Sea of impossibility and to enter the wilderness of transformation, trusting that the promised land of your freedom awaits you. But how does one begin this journey? How does one take the first step toward freedom when feeling so completely stuck? The answer lies in the art of revision, the practice of mentally rewriting the events of your day to align with the state you wish to occupy. Each night, before you enter into the state of your wish fulfilled as you fall asleep, take a few moments to review the events of your day. Identify moments when you felt particularly stuck, when the walls seemed especially confining. Now in your imagination, rewrite these events. See them unfolding differently. Feel how you would have felt if in those moments you had experienced freedom rather than limitation. For instance, if during the day you had a conversation in which you felt small and powerless, revise that conversation. In your imagination, see yourself speaking with confidence and authority. Feel the satisfaction of expressing yourself fully and being received with respect. Or if you encountered a circumstance that seemed to confirm your state of being stuck, revise that circumstance. See it unfolding in a way that confirms your freedom instead. This practice of revision serves two powerful purposes. First, it prevents the accumulation of impressions that would reinforce the unwanted state. By revising the events of your day, you are ensuring that your subconscious is not being continually impressed with the feeling of being stuck. Second, it actively impresses upon the subconscious the feeling of the state you wish to occupy, the state of freedom. Over time, this practice will transform your habitual state of consciousness. And as your consciousness transforms, so must your world transform, for your world is nothing more than your consciousness objectified. But perhaps the most challenging aspect of this practice is maintaining fidelity to your new assumption in the face of persisting evidence to the contrary. The world, being a shadow of past states of consciousness, will for a time continue to reflect the old state even as you begin to dwell in the new. This persistence of the old reality can test your faith in the law, tempting you to abandon your assumption and return to the familiar if unwanted state of being stuck. This is why I emphasize the importance of dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled with such intensity, such completeness, that for those moments at least, the old state is entirely forgotten, for it is in these moments of complete absorption in the new state that the most powerful impressions are made upon the subconscious. I recall a student of mine who had been confined to a wheelchair for many years following an accident. All medical opinion confirmed that his condition was permanent, yet night after night, he would enter into the state of being whole and active. In his imagination, he would dance, run, climb stairs with ease. He would feel the strength in his legs, the freedom of movement, the joy of physical activity. For months there was no visible change in his condition. The evidence of his senses continued to testify to his limitation, but he remained faithful to his assumption. He continued to revise his days, replacing moments of limitation with imaginal experiences of freedom. He continued to fall asleep each night in the state of his wish fulfilled, and then gradually things began to change. Sensation began to return to parts of his body that had been numb. Small movements became possible where there had been none. Medical professionals were baffled but confirmed the changes, and over time, through what they called a miraculous recovery, he regained the full use of his body. Was this a miracle in the supernatural sense? No, it was the natural operation of the law of consciousness. He had so completely revised his concept of himself, so thoroughly impressed upon the subconscious the state of being whole and free, that the subconscious had no choice but to express this new concept in his physical experience. This same law operates in every sphere of your life. Whether you feel stuck in health, in wealth, in relationships, in career, the way out is the same. You must revise your concept of self. You must exchange your limited self-concept for an expanded one, and you must do this not merely as an intellectual exercise, but as a vivid, feelingful experience in imagination. For imagination is not, as many suppose, a faculty for daydreaming or escapism. Imagination is nothing less than consciousness itself in its creative aspect. It is the God power within you, the I am clothed in the specific forms of your assumptions. When you say, I am stuck, you are not merely describing your condition, you are invoking the creative power of the I am to produce and sustain that condition. And when you say, I am free, you are invoking that same power to produce and sustain freedom. The I am in you will become whatever you attach to it through feeling. This is why feelings are so crucial in the law of assumption. It is not enough to intellectually understand that you are not truly stuck. that the limitations you perceive are illusions of consciousness. You must feel your freedom. You must experience it so vividly in imagination that the feeling of being stuck is displaced completely, if only for a moment. Some may argue, but Wayne, the circumstances that make me feel stuck are real. They are not merely in my imagination. To this I would reply, yes, the circumstances appear real because they are the objectification of previous states of consciousness. They are the shadow cast by the light of consciousness. But shadows, no matter how dark they appear, cannot persist in the presence of light. When you shift your consciousness from the state of being stuck to the state of being free, you are turning on the light. And though the shadow may not disappear instantly, it must eventually give way to the light, for that is the law of consciousness. I invite you to test this law for yourself. Do not take my word for it. Do not believe it merely because it appeals to you intellectually. Test it in the laboratory of your own life. Apply the principles I have shared with you tonight to some area where you feel stuck and observe the results with the detachment of a scientist. Begin tonight. When you retire to sleep, revise the events of your day that reinforce the feeling of being stuck. Then enter fully into a scene that implies your freedom. Make it vivid. Feel it deeply. Carry this feeling as you drift off to sleep. Do this night after night and watch how your world begins to transform. Notice how opportunities appear that were not there before. Observe how circumstances rearrange themselves to accommodate your new state of consciousness. Marvel at the bridge of incidents that forms itself, leading you from the state of being stuck to the state of freedom you have assumed in consciousness. But a word of caution, do not look for science too eagerly in the beginning. Do not dig up the seed to see if it is growing. Allow the law to operate in its own time and in its own way. Your role is to plant the seed through assumption and to nurture it through fidelity to that assumption. The law will take care of the manifestation. I am reminded of a beautiful passage from Ecclesiastes. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Sow the seed of your assumption in the morning of your consciousness, and sow it again in the evening. Do not try to determine which particular act of sowing will produce the harvest. Trust the law to bring forth the manifestation in its own perfect time. There is another aspect of the feeling of being stuck that I wish to address, for it can be particularly pernicious. Often the feeling of being stuck is accompanied by a sense of unworthiness, a belief that one does not deserve freedom, or that one has somehow caused one's own imprisonment through past mistakes or failures. This sense of unworthiness is itself a state of consciousness, and like all states, it can be exchanged for another. You need not justify your desire for freedom. You need not earn the right to live the life you wish to live. Freedom is your natural inheritance. It is the fundamental reality of your being. To claim it, you need only assume it as yours. In the scripture we read, your Father has pleased to give you the kingdom. The kingdom, the realm of infinite possibility of complete freedom, is already yours. It has already been given to you. Your task is not to earn it, but to accept it, to assume it, to enter into it through the portal of your imagination. So tonight, as you lie down to sleep, let go of all thoughts on worthiness. Release all beliefs that you must somehow qualify for the freedom you desire. Instead, assume the feeling of already being the person you wish to be, already living the life you wish to live, already possessing the freedom you seek. For in the realm of consciousness, in the realm of the real, there is no process of becoming. There is only being. You do not become free. You recognize the freedom that has always been yours. You do not achieve the fulfillment of your desires. You awaken to the fulfillment that has always existed within you. This is the great mystery to which all spiritual teachings point. What you are seeking, you already are. What you desire to possess, you already possess. The journey is not one of acquisition, but of recognition. When you truly understand this, the feeling of being stuck dissolves like mist in the morning sun. For how can you be stuck when you are consciousness itself, and consciousness is unlimited? How can you be confined when your true identity is the I am, and the I am knows no restrictions? Let me share with you one more practice that can help to dissolve the feeling of being stuck. Throughout your day, whenever you catch yourself feeling limited or confined, pause and ask yourself this question. What would the feeling be like if I were now the person I desire to be? How would I see this circumstance if I were now free from all limitations? Then, for just a moment, assume that feeling. Enter into it completely. Let it permeate your being. This momentary assumption, repeated throughout your day, will gradually transform your habitual state of consciousness. And as your consciousness transforms, so must your world transform. Remember the words attributed to Jesus. The truth shall make you free, but what is this truth that liberates? It is the truth of your own being that you are pure consciousness, that you are the operant power, that the world is your consciousness pushed out. When you know this truth, not merely intellectually, but through the direct experience of testing it in your own life, you will never again feel permanently stuck in any circumstance, for you will have discovered the secret of liberation. The prison that seemed to confine you was built by your own imagination, and what imagination has constructed, imagination can deconstruct. The walls that appeared so solid were made of assumptions, and assumptions can be changed. This is the freedom I offer you tonight. Not freedom from certain circumstances, but freedom from the belief that circumstances have power over you. Not freedom from conditions, but freedom from the assumption that conditions can contain the infinite being that you are. Test this law of assumption. Apply it to your own feeling of being stuck. Enter fully into the state of your wish fulfilled and observe how the universe rearranges itself to accommodate your new concept of self. For that is the promise of the law: as a man assumes, so he becomes. And know this, there is no limitation in consciousness itself. The only limitations are those you accept through your assumptions. Therefore, assume freedom, and freedom must become your experience. Assume abundance, and abundance must flow into your life. Assume love, and love must surround you. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you assume in consciousness must be made manifest in your world. The choice is yours. You can continue to assume the state of being stuck, and your experience will continue to validate that assumption. Or you can assume the state of freedom and watch as the universe conspires to make that assumption a reality. Begin tonight as you fall asleep. Enter so completely into the feeling of your wish fulfilled that the feeling of being stuck is utterly forgotten. Do this night after night and test the law for yourself. For the promise is true if you know these things. Happy are you if you do them. The practice I have outlined for you is simple, but it requires discipline and persistence. It requires that you be faithful to your assumption even when all the evidence of your senses contradicts it. But the rewards of this faithfulness are beyond measure. For in assuming the state of freedom, you are not merely changing your circumstances. You are awakening to the truth of your being. You are recognizing the divine power that has been yours from the beginning. This recognition is the true meaning of salvation, not salvation from an external threat, but salvation from the limited concept of self that has kept you bound to unwanted conditions. It is awakening to the truth that sets you free. So tonight, as you leave this place, carry with you this knowledge. The feeling of being stuck is not your natural state. It is an assumed condition, and what has been assumed can be relinquished. Freedom is your birthright, your natural inheritance, the fundamental reality of your being. Claim it through the divine art of assumption and watch as the prison walls that seem so solid dissolve like shadows of the light of your own awakened consciousness. For you are not a prisoner unless you believe yourself to be one. You are not stuck unless you assume yourself to be stuck. You are free eternally, completely free when you awaken to the truth of your own infinite being. Begin the practice tonight. Enter the state of freedom through the portal of your imagination. Feel it with all the intensity you can muster and know that as you assume this state, as you make it real in your consciousness, it must become real in your experience. For that is the law, that is the promise, that is the truth that sets you free. Remember, always consciousness is the only reality, and you are consciousness. Therefore, you are the reality behind all appearances. You are the power that shapes your world. You are the freedom you seek. Go now and test this truth for yourself. For in testing it, you will discover the greatest secret of all. The key to your freedom has been in your possession all along. It is your own wonderful human imagination, the God power within you, clothed in the specific forms of your assumptions. Use this power wisely. Use it lovingly. Use it to liberate yourself from all limitations, and as you experience the freedom that is your natural state, share this knowledge with others who still feel stuck, that they too might awaken to the truth of their being. For this is why we are here, not merely to seek our own liberation, but to help awaken all humanity to the glorious truth that sets everyone free. The truth that there is no power outside of consciousness, the truth that what we assume we become, The truth that freedom is not a destination to be reached, but a present reality to be recognized. So tonight assume the state of freedom, feel its reality, live from it, and watch as your world transforms to reflect the new concept of self you have assumed. For that is the promise of the law, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The renewal begins tonight in the quiet sanctuary of your own imagination. It begins with the simple but profound act of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It begins with the recognition that the prison that seemed to confine you is built of assumptions, and what has been built can be dismantled. The tools are in your hands, the power is within you, the choice is yours. Choose freedom. Choose it now, not as a future possibility, but as a present reality. Feel its presence, embody its truth, and from this new state of consciousness, watch as the universe conspires to set you free. For that is the law, that is the promise, that is the truth that liberates all who discover it and apply it in their lives. The feeling of being stuck is not your natural state. Freedom is your birthright. Claim it through the divine art of assumption, and it must become your experience. For consciousness is the only reality, and you are consciousness itself expressing in the specific forms of your assumptions. Assume freedom, and freedom shall be yours. This is the law, this is the promise, this is the truth that sets you free. The Bible, which I have always maintained, is not a historical document, but a psychological drama. Tells us in Proverbs, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." What is this heart that we must guard so carefully? It is not the physical organ crumping blood through your veins, but the center of your being, your consciousness, your awareness, your I am. When you focus on yourself, you are turning to the only creative power in your world. You are acknowledging that what you are conscious of being, you will express in your outer world. This is the fundamental law of manifestation that has been taught in veiled language throughout all sacred texts. You do not know that the kingdom of heaven is within you, that you need not look to external circumstances, to other people, or to future events for your good. All that you seek is already present within your consciousness, awaiting your recognition and acceptance. The world may tell you to focus outwardly, to study the actions of others, to compete, to strive, to force changes in your environment. But I tell you that such effort is unnecessary when you understand the law of consciousness. For when you change your inner state, your outer world must conform to that change. It has no choice, for it is only the shadow of your inner reality. And what of this silence that I urge you to maintain? It is not merely the absence of speech, though that is indeed part of it. The silence I speak of is a profound iniquity, a refusal to contradict in thought, word, or deed the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. In the book of Exodus, we find these words, "The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." This is the true meaning of staying silent. It is allowing the law, your own wonderful human imagination, to do its perfect work without interference from your doubting, reasoning mind. How many times have you planted a seed of desire in your consciousness only to dig it up repeatedly with your doubts and fears? How often have you declared that a thing is so, only to contradict it moments later with anxious thoughts? This is the very opposite of maintaining silence. The silence I advocate is a complete mental acceptance that what you have imagined is now reality in the spiritual realm, and therefore must inevitably materialize in your experience. It is a calm knowing, a peaceful certainty that needs no outer confirmation. Let me share with you a simple technique that has helped countless individuals to focus on themselves and maintain this creative silence. When you retire at night, lie flat on your back with your head upon a pillow, close your eyes and completely relax your body. Now bring your attention to your breathing, not to control it, but simply to observe its natural rhythm. As your body relaxes and your mind begins to quiet, turn your attention inward. Become aware of yourself as pure consciousness, as the observer, not the things observed. Feel the reality of your own existence apart from all conditions and circumstances. Now from this state of self-awareness, begin to imagine a scene that would imply the fulfillment of your desire. See it clearly, feel it to be real, and allow yourself to become emotionally involved in this imaginal act. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of having already attained what you seek. This is focusing on yourself, on your own creative consciousness. And as you fall asleep in this state, you are maintaining the silence that allows the seed to take root in the soil of your subconscious mind. Do not wake in the morning and immediately begin to question whether your imaginal act was effective. Do not look to your external world for immediate signs of change. Instead, maintain your silence. Go about your day from the calm center of knowing that what you have imagined must come to pass, for that is the law. The Bible tells us, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness, this silence is not inactivity. It is the most powerful form of action possible, for it aligns you with the creative forces of the universe itself. Consider the words of the psalmist. I said, "I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. I was dumb with silence. I held my peace even from good, and my sorrow was stirred." This passage beautifully illustrates the challenge and the power of maintaining silence. Even when confronted with conditions that seem to deny our desires, while the wicked is before me, we must hold our peace. We must refuse to give voice to doubt, fear, or contradiction. Let me tell you of a lady who came to me in distress. Husband had left her for another woman, and she was consumed with jealousy, anger, and the desperate need to take action to reclaim him. She asked what she should do. Should she confront the other woman? Should she beg her husband to return? Should she seek legal counsel? I told her to do nothing outwardly. Instead, I instructed her to focus on herself, on her own consciousness, and to create there the state of being happily married. Each night she was to fall asleep feeling the presence of her husband beside her, hearing his voice experiencing the comfort and security of their restored relationship. And above all, I urged her to maintain silence, not to speak to others of her problems, not to confront her husband and his mistress, not even to affirm verbally what she was creating in imagination, simply to know within herself that the marriage was restored in her consciousness and therefore must manifest in her experience. Within 1 month her husband returned, the relationship with the other woman having dissolved of its own accord. No outer action was necessary. By focusing on herself, on her own creative consciousness, and by maintaining silence, she had allowed the law to operate without interference. This principle applies to every area of life. Are you seeking financial abundance? Do not focus on the outer conditions that seem to limit you. Do not speak constantly of lack or engage in anxious discussions about the economy. Instead, focus on yourself, on your consciousness, and establish there the feeling of wealth and security. Live from that state in your imagination and maintain silence as the outer world rearranges itself to match your inner assumption. Do you desire health? Then do not dwell upon the condition of your body or engage in endless conversations about symptoms and treatments. Focus instead on the feeling of being perfectly well. Establish that state within your consciousness and maintain silence as the creative law works through you to manifest physical harmony. I tell you that all things are possible to him who believes. A true belief is not merely an intellectual acceptance, but a state of consciousness, a feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you focus on yourself, on your IA, and identify it with your desire, you have set in motion the law that must bring your desire to fruition. Some may misunderstand this teaching and consider it selfish or impractical. They may say, "But Wayne, we must take action in the world. We cannot simply sit and imagine." To them I would reply that I am not advocating inaction, but rather the most appropriate and effective action of consciousness. All outer actions, when they are not inspired by a changed consciousness, are merely futile attempts to bring about change through effort and will. But when action flows naturally from a transformed inner state, it is effortless and perfectly suited to the manifestation of your desire. I recall a gentleman who attended one of my lectures in New York. He approached me afterward and said, "I understand what you're teaching, but I've been imagining financial success for months with no results. What am I doing wrong?" Upon questioning him, I discovered that while he was indeed in imaginative scenes of wealth each night, during his days he was constantly speaking of his financial problems, checking his bank balance anxiously, and focusing on the gap between his desire and his current reality. I said to him, "You are planting a seed with your imaginal act, but then you are daily digging it up to see if it has grown. You must maintain silence. You must stop contradicting your assumption of wealth with your words and actions." He took this advice to heart. He continued his nightly practice of imagining wealth, but he also began to focus on himself, on controlling his inner conversations and maintaining an attitude consistent with his desire. He ceased speaking of financial problems and even stopped checking his bank balance compulsively. Within 6 weeks, he received an unexpected business opportunity that eventually led to the financial abundance he had been seeking. The outer action, accepting and developing the opportunity, came naturally and effortlessly because it was inspired by his changed consciousness. The Bible states, "In returning and rest shall ye be saved, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength." This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself and staying silent. It is returning to the center of your being, resting in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled, maintaining the quietness that allows the seed to grow undisturbed, and having complete confidence in the law of your own consciousness. Let us now explore another dimension of this practice. When you focus on yourself, you withdraw attention from the limitations of the outer world. You cease to be mesmerized by appearances, which are only shadows of past thoughts and beliefs. This withdrawal of attention is essential for the transformation of consciousness. As long as you are fixated on external conditions, accepting them as the ultimate reality, you cannot truly change those conditions, for what you focus on persists in your experience. By focusing instead on yourself, on the reality of your consciousness, you reclaim your creative power. The great spiritual directive, "Go within," is not merely a suggestion. It is the only way to fundamentally change your life. For all external circumstances are but reflections of internal states. Change the internal, and the external must change accordingly. This is why Jesus taught, "Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment." Righteous judgment is to see not with the outer eye of the senses, which reports only the effects of past causes, but with the inner eye of imagination, which sees what is desired as already accomplished. When you focus on yourself, you are focusing on the cause rather than the effect, on the source rather than the shadow. This is the essence of true spiritual practice. And what of the silence that must accompany this focus? It serves multiple purposes in the manifestation of your desires. First, silence prevents the dissipation of creative energy. When you speak prematurely of your desires or your imaginal acts, you often release the tension necessary for manifestation. It is like deflating a balloon before it has lifted you to your destination. I have observed that those who speak least of their ambitions are often those who accomplish them most impressively. They have intuitively grasped the power of silence, of holding their vision sacred and protected from the doubts and criticisms of others. Second, silence allows the subconscious mind to work unhindered. When you maintain outer silence about your desires and inner silence through the quieting of contrary thoughts, you create the ideal conditions for the manifestation of your imaginal acts. The subconscious accepts what the conscious mind impresses upon it, but this impression must be clear and consistent. By maintaining silence, refusing to contradict your assumption with either words or thoughts, you ensure that the impression remains undisturbed until it manifests in your outer world. Third, silence is an expression of absolute faith in the law. When you know that a thing is done in consciousness, you feel no need to speak of it anxiously or to seek constant reassurance. Your silence is a testament to your confidence that what you have assumed in imagination must objectify itself in your experience. This is the meaning of the biblical instruction. "But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which sees in secret shall reward thee openly." The closet is your consciousness. The door that must be shut is the silence you maintain against all contradictory thoughts and words. And the Father who sees in secret is the law of your own being, which unfailingly brings forth the harvest of your mental sowing. Let me share with you another example from my own experience. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I had no apparent means to make the journey. Rather than focusing on this limitation, I turned within. I focused on myself, on my consciousness, and I imagined stepping off the ship onto the soil of Barbados, being greeted by my family, feeling the warm tropical air on my skin. I performed this imaginal act night after night, and I maintained silence about it. I did not speak to others of my desire to travel when I had no visible means to do so. I did not allow myself to engage in anxious thoughts about how this journey would be accomplished. Within a matter of weeks, a series of seemingly unrelated events culminated in my receiving both the funds and the opportunity to make the journey exactly as I had imagined it. The outer action, booking the passage, boarding the ship, came naturally and effortlessly as a result of my inner action of consciousness. This is the pattern of manifestation that I have observed countless times, both in my own life and in the lives of those who have applied this teaching faithfully. The inner creates the outer. The focus on self, on consciousness, precedes and determines the conditions of objective experience. Now, let us consider what typically prevents people from successfully focusing on themselves and maintaining silence. The primary obstacle is the tendency to be constantly drawn outward by the evidence of the senses. From childhood, we are taught to believe that what we can see, hear, and touch is more real than what we imagine. We are conditioned to accept the testimony of the outer world as the ultimate truth. And so, when we attempt to focus on ourselves, on our consciousness, we are repeatedly pulled back to external reality by the sheer force of habit. This habit can be broken, but it requires determination and practice. It requires a willingness to question the evidence of the senses and to affirm the primacy of consciousness. It requires faith in the unseen reality of your own wonderful human imagination. The silence that I advocate is equally challenging for most people. In a world that values expression, communication, and constant sharing of thoughts and feelings, the discipline of silence can seem strange or even threatening. Many feel that by not speaking of their problems, they are somehow denying them or refusing to deal with them responsibly. Others fear that by not continually affirming their desires verbally, they might forget them or lose momentum toward their fulfillment. But I tell you that true silence, the silence that follows complete inner acceptance of your desire, is fulfilled, is not denial or forgetfulness. It is the most powerful affirmation possible, for it stems from the confidence that what is done in consciousness is done indeed and needs no further effort or assertion. This silence is not the gritting of teeth against adversity or the repression of genuine feelings. It is the natural quiet that descends when you know that your desire is already yours, and the only reality that ultimately matters, the reality of consciousness. Consider the words attributed to Jesus. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. This is a perfect expression of the principle I am teaching you tonight. To focus on yourself is to enter the state of prayer, not as supplication, but as assumption. And to stay silent is to maintain the belief that you have already received, regardless of appearances to the contrary. Now, let me address a common misconception. Some may think that by focusing on yourself and staying silent, you are somehow withdrawing from life or avoiding responsibility. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you focus on yourself in the way I am describing, you are engaging with life at its causal level. You are taking full responsibility for your experience by acknowledging and exercising your role as the creator of your reality. And the silence I advocate is not an aloof detachment from the world, but rather a reverent recognition that the world is responding to your consciousness, not the other way around. It is the silence of mastery, not the silence of defeat or resignation. Let me offer you a practical discipline to develop your ability to focus on yourself and maintain silence. Each day, set aside a period of time. It need not be long. Even 15 minutes will suffice, during which you deliberately withdraw attention from the outer world and focus entirely on your consciousness. During this time, ignore the evidence of the senses. Embrace all concern with problems, conditions, or circumstances. Be fully present with your I am, your awareness of being. Feel the reality of your existence independent of all external factors. From this state of self-awareness, select a desire, something you wish to be, to do, or to have. Now, with the full focus of your attention, imagine this desire is already fulfilled. See it, feel it, accept it as done. As you emerge from this period of focused imagination, maintain silence about your practice. Do not speak of it to others, and do not allow your inner conversation to contradict what you have established in consciousness. If doubts arise, and they will, for all habits of thought are persistent, do not fight them directly. Instead, gently return your focus to the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Remember that what you focus on expands, so by focusing on the doubt, you only strengthen it. Focus instead on the assumed reality of your wish fulfilled. Practice this discipline daily, and you will gradually develop the capacity to focus on yourself, on your consciousness, rather than on external conditions. You will also strengthen your ability to maintain silence, to hold your vision sacred and protect it until it manifests in your experience. This practice is the essence of what I have been teaching for many years, though I have expressed it in various ways and through different metaphors and examples. It is the art of changing your life by changing your consciousness, and it is based on the absolute law that consciousness is the only reality. The Bible, which I have always interpreted as a psychological rather than historical document, is filled with references to this practice. When properly understood, it is a manual for the mastery of consciousness and the manifestation of desire. For instance, consider the story of the Exodus. Egypt represents the bondage of belief in external conditions, while the promised land represents the freedom of knowing that consciousness is the only reality. The journey from one to the other is the process of shifting focus from the outer to the inner, from the effect to the cause. The 40 years in the wilderness represents the period of transition during which old beliefs die and new awareness is established. The various trials and tests along the way represent the challenges of maintaining focus on the inner reality when outer appearance is contradicted. And the command to be silent in various situations throughout the journey represents the necessity of not contradicting with our words or thoughts the assumption of already being in the promised land. This is your journey as well. You may currently be in Egypt bound by belief in the limitations of external reality. Through the practice of focusing on yourself and staying silent, you will journey to your own promised land, the fulfillment of your desires through the conscious exercise of your creative imagination. Let me share with you one more example that may clarify this principle further. A young man once came to me deeply concerned about his professional future. He had applied for a position that represented his dream job, but he had been told that there were hundreds of applicants, many far more qualified than he. Rather than focusing on these external circumstances, I advised him to focus on himself, on his consciousness. I suggested that he imagine being congratulated on securing the position, feeling the handshake of his new employer, hearing the words of welcome, experiencing the satisfaction and joy of having attained his desire. And I emphasized the importance of silence. He was not to speak to anyone about having used his imagination in this way. He was not to anxiously discuss his chances with friends or family. He was not even to allow his inner conversation to question the reality of what he had imagined. He followed this guidance faithfully, and within 2 weeks he received a call from the company. Despite the supposedly overwhelming competition, he was offered the position, the external action, the interview. The acceptance flowed naturally from his changed state of consciousness. This is the pattern you will observe in your own life as you practice focusing on yourself and staying silent. The outer circumstances, no matter how fixed they may appear, must yield to the power of your consciousness when you know the law and apply it faithfully. Now, as we approach the conclusion of our discussion, let me leave you with this thought. The practice I have described to you is not merely a technique for getting what you are, though it certainly is that. It is a way of aligning yourself with the fundamental reality of the universe, the reality that consciousness is primary and that the world of the senses is its projection. When you focus on yourself, on your consciousness, and maintain silence until your assumption manifests, you are not only fulfilling your desires, you are fulfilling the very purpose of your existence, which is to experience and express the infinite creative power that is your true nature. You are here to create, to imagine, to assume, to transform not through struggle and effort, but through the wonderful human capacity to conceive and believe. And as you discover and exercise this power, you will find that life becomes not a series of problems to be solved, but a joyous journey of ever expanding awareness and expression. The world is your consciousness objectified. Change your consciousness and you change your world. This is the simple yet profound truth that has the power to transform every aspect of your experience. Remember the words of the prophet, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still, maintain silence. No, focus on the reality of your consciousness that I am God. Acknowledge the divine creative power that is your true identity. This is the practice that will lead you from bondage to freedom, from limitation to fulfillment, from frustration to satisfaction. This is the art of focusing on yourself and staying silent. Tonight, as you retire to sleep, I urge you to put this teaching to the test. Select a desire, something that you genuinely wish to experience. As you lie in bed, relaxed and receptive, focus on yourself, on your I am, your awareness of being. Then, from this center of your being, imagine your desire is already fulfilled. Feel the reality of it. Accept it completely. Fall asleep in this state of conscious assumption and maintain silence about it. Do not speak of it prematurely, and do not allow your inner conversation to contradict it. Do this faithfully, persistently, and with full attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Then observe as the outer circumstances of your life begin to rearrange themselves to match your inner conviction. For this is the law. What you focus on in consciousness with feeling and conviction, must objectify itself in your experience. It cannot fail, for consciousness is the only reality and all things are possible to him who believes. Focus on yourself, on your consciousness. Stay silent until your assumption has become your experience. This is the way to the fulfillment of all your desires, the way to the life you truly wish to live. For when you know yourself as the creator of your reality, you have discovered the greatest secret of existence, and nothing can ever limit you again. In my Father's house are many mansions, many states of consciousness. By focusing on yourself, you choose the mansion, the state that you will occupy. And by maintaining silence, you allow that choice to become your dwelling place. The choice is yours now and always. Choose wisely and live in the joyous awareness of your creative power. The end of all seeking is to know yourself as the creator of your experience. The purpose of all teaching is to return you to the center of your being, where true power resides. And the reward of all practice is the freedom to be, to do, and to have whatever you can conceive and believe. Focus on yourself and stay silent. This is the key I offer you tonight, the key to the kingdom of your own unlimited potential. Use it faithfully and watch as the world transforms before your eyes. For in truth, there is no power outside of you. There's nothing to overcome, nothing to fight against, nothing to fear. There is only your consciousness, your awareness, your I am, and its infinite capacity to conceive, to believe, and to experience. Know this truth, and it will set you free. Embrace this principle, and it will transform your life. Share this understanding through your example, and you will help to awaken others to their own divine creative power. This is my message to you tonight. Focus on yourself and stay silent. In these simple words lies the secret of fulfilled desire, the path to your highest good, and the realization of your true nature as the operant power in your world. Thank you for your attention, and may you go forward from this hour with the confident knowledge that all your desire is already yours in consciousness, awaiting only your recognition and acceptance to become your living experience.